We'll be right back with more Star
and more Marco
on Disney XD.
Time to get back to our show, Star.
I got this. Dumpster Donut, return to the show.
Star vs. the Forces of Evil is a show I'd never really heard about before I sought it out for this review. In fact, when I say I'd never heard about it, I literally knew nothing about the show going into this. It might have something to do with how new the show is. Star vs. the Forces of Evil began airing on January 18, 2015, with Season 1 only containing 13 episodes. Considering the show has only been around for just over 2 years and hasn't even finished airing its second season, it's not much of a surprise that I hadn't heard much about the show. The show was created by Darren Nefkawai. She'd previously worked on storyboards for Wander Over Yonder and Robot and Monster. Fun fact, she became just the second woman to create an animated series for Disney television animation, the first being Sue Rose, creator of Pepper Ann, and the first woman to ever create a Disney XD series. Nefki has stated her anime influences such as Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z played a big part in the creation of the show, as well as comics like Scott Pilgrim. Critical reception of the show seems to be generally positive, and with no outside talk to influence me, I'm going into the first season with an incredibly open mind.
It's gonna get a little weird, gonna get a little wild. I ain't from around here, I'm from another dimension.
One of my first thoughts upon starting Star vs. the Force of Evil is that it feels incredibly similar to Steven Universe in its premise. Star is a princess from Muni, who is sent to Earth in order to master her magic wand powers and become a better princess. The fact that Star and Steven are both kids learning to master supernatural powers makes them feel quite similar, as does the type of humour they both often go for. It's even visually similar to Steven Universe. However, it being similar to Steven Universe is not a knock on the show, because as I expressed in my Steven Universe Season 1 review, I love Steven Universe. Once Star arrives on Earth, she starts attending school, and Marco Diaz is assigned to show her around because he's the lamest and thought of as the most safe student. Eventually it's revealed that Marco's family has actually taken in Star as an exchange student. Marco initially intensely dislikes Star, but then after a matter of minutes during the first episode, he starts liking her. It feels like there would have been a better dynamic and more interesting character arc if for a few episodes Marco was annoyed by Star's presence, but eventually warms up to her. Instead, we have Marco's attitude towards her doing a 180 almost immediately, and the moment isn't really earned. Star also goes from literally not knowing Marco at all, to calling him her best friend and saying how much he means to her despite literally knowing him for a day, which is a little weird, even though Star is a pretty weird character. The antagonist in the majority of episodes is a little man named Ludo, who wants to steal and use Star's wand for nefarious reasons. However, Ludo and his henchmen are hilariously inept. Like, even by inept henchman standards, they're pretty damn inept. It's basically a running gag about how terrible Ludo's attempts at getting the wand are, with him completely failing to steal it even when it's literally right in front of his face to steal. Eventually Toffee is introduced, who is a far more cunning and intelligent antagonist who initially aligns himself with Ludo, but it's incredibly obvious that he's going to end up usurping him. Despite the name, Toffee is far more terrifying and infinitely more competent. One of the negatives I have about Season 1 of Star vs. the Force of Evil is that some of the episodes seem extremely cliché. The best example of this is the episode titled The Other Exchange Student. In this episode, another exchange student comes to stay with Marco's family, and Star starts to get jealous because of the way they treat him and how he seems to be so perfect. But then Star starts noticing weird things that nobody else seems to notice, and thinks that everything is not what it seems with him. This kind of trope has been done to death, and this show doesn't really add anything new to the concept to make it feel fresh. As I mentioned earlier, Star vs. the Force of Evil feels quite similar to Steven Universe. However, while it does have a continuous plot thread throughout the season, it feels like it's much less prevalent than in Steven Universe. There are a number of episodes that don't feature Ludo at all, which in a 13 episode season means there's a much higher percentage of episodes that don't advance the overall plot. The season long plot eventually pays off in the season finale, which is actually incredibly interesting and suspenseful. Toffee finally assumes control of Ludo's operations and pulls off a seriously good plan to get to Star and Marco. The season also leaves viewers with a few questions unanswered, which definitely made me want to jump into Season 2 to find out what happens next.
Stay in this dimension. Star vs. the Forces of Evil will be right back on Disney XD. The magic spell worked! We're back with more Star vs. the Forces of Evil on Disney XD.
While there is a lot of action prevalent throughout each episode, Star vs. the Forces of Evil is first and foremost a comedy-driven show. I was also surprised at just how much adult humour was included in the show, particularly for something airing on a Disney-affiliated channel. Most episodes have a few jokes that are intended for a much older audience than the target audience for the show, and each time the writers manage to make them unexpected and not feel too out of place in the show. Outside of the adult humour, the humour can be a little hit and miss at times. This particularly stems from the fact that Star is often a lol so random character, which can get a little cringy and annoying.
Stuck in another dimension!
Oh no, we're not! Blah.
Often she comes across as that Penguin of Doom copypaster, which isn't a good thing. This kind of annoying randomness is actually displayed perfectly in the show's theme song, which is incredibly annoying and basically devolves into the singer making random noises. Hopefully the second season strays away from this type of humour.
Star, can we please go home now?
What's the matter, Marco?
He's not freaking you out?
He's just giving us a thumbs up. Back at you, buddy.
Star?
Yeah, time to take a hike.
Overall, Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 1 is pretty great despite having a few flaws. I don't love it as much as I loved the first season of Steven Universe, but there is a great foundation set here and I can't wait to jump into Season 2 and see if they're able to improve upon the negatives.
Hey! I am on the phone! You monsters are so rude! Syrup Tsunami Shockwave!